So why don't we start with your general thoughts about everything that's been happening?
Well, I think it's a huge shock for our community. It's a tragedy. It's inconceivable. There are a lot of questions. Why did this happen? How could this happen? So our community is hurting very much so. Our staff, our administration, our parents, and certainly our students. So anytime that you send your child to school, you're expecting a safe environment. So we're all heartbroken that this could even possibly happen here in the Hilton Central School District.
What was your own personal reaction to finding out about this?
Shocked, hurt, disappointment. I first go to the students, and just great sadness that these families were exposed to a situation like this. And then as you move through the grieving process, you become angry, you move through those emotions. But you have to put that aside as a leader, in a sense, so that I can be a solid leader for this community to help learn from this and heal from this. You know, I do believe I've been put in this place for a reason, and that is to lead this district through this horrible time.
How are the families directly impacted doing so far?
So from the families that have disclosed to me that they are one of the families, because it's an ongoing police investigation, the district attorney has not released the names to me. So from the families that have shared, they're doing okay. There is certainly hurt and disbelief and shock, but we're working closely with the families that have disclosed to us to make sure that they have counseling through our district, through Bavona Child Advocacy, and that we can support them through the process. So it's going to be a long road, but we continue to support not only the victims' families, but all students in the district who are feeling grief and shock and working through the emotional anguish of a situation like this. Because many folks looked up to this person as a role model and trusted that person, so it makes it very difficult. Even if you were not a victim per se of this individual, everyone is working through the emotions of seeing this person every day, trusting this person, believing that they were caring for our students. So overall, it's a very difficult time for the district.
Do you have trouble even saying his name at this point?
I do. I'm hurt, I'm frustrated. It's been a tough situation. I know that there is a lot of anger in the community for this individual because of this. So it is a great challenge for us to say his name or even acknowledge that he was a member of our learning community here.
I can imagine. You mentioned Bavona, how interesting it is. My impression from hearing from police and the district attorney's office that a lot of this came out because of a program that Hilton was implementing with Bavona.
Yeah, if there's ever any silver lining in this incident, is due to Aaron's Law, we moved forward with partnering with Bavona to have them come in and teach child abuse and sexual abuse awareness to our students. So we feel very strongly that because the students learned this curriculum and learned the vocabulary and understood, that helped them disclose the situation. So there's really nothing good about this situation, but if we were to look at it as any positives, it was that partnership with Bavona that armed these students with the ability to identify what was happening and that was wrong and how to report it and come forward.
And now that it's kind of out there, the DA alluded to the possibility of more people coming forward. Are you prepared for that?
Well, I don't know if you're ever prepared for that. So in the sense of we're preparing ourselves with our resources at Bavona, working with law enforcement, working with Rochester Regional Health to provide counseling. We're working with Harris Beach Law Firm to conduct an independent investigation into our practices and our procedures to make sure that we can do anything we can in our ability to prevent something like this from happening again. So we changed protocol immediately this past Friday on how our administration, especially our principals, interact with our students. So these were practices we had in place, but we're continuing to refine them, and that's that principals are going to have an open door policy. Their doors on their offices will always be open. If the door needs to close for a confidential meeting, a second adult will be called into the office. All lights will be on in the offices. If we were to call your child down to meet with the principal, that principal is going to call you and let you know. So by the time your child comes home, you're already going to know that we either call the child down to celebrate them for something good that they did, or if it was a behavior management issue, you're going to know that day that your child had interaction with the principal. We've also instituted a visitor's log, so anytime a student comes down to an administrative office, we have record keeping of at what time they were there and what time they left. So those are just some of the steps that we've taken immediately to ensure people try to regain their confidence and trust in the district. And then as a result of our work with Bavona and Harris Speech Law Firm, we will have more specific and concrete changes moving forward out of that investigation.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect more students and alum to come forward?
It's a difficult question to answer. I have a gut feel that there may be other students out there who had a negative interaction with Mr. Ashton, but it's hard for me to give a definitive answer of whether we'll have more victims come forward or not.
The question about the paid administrative leave, there's concern out in the community about the paid part. Mm-hmm. How have you been answering that question?
Well, currently as a tenured administrator in New York State, there's not a conclusion to this investigation yet. So as we know, there's a lot of anger. There are allegations against Mr. Ashton, but until there is a complete process there, New York State does not allow us to terminate a tenured administrator. So we're looking to work towards a potential separation. But at this point in time, we have to go through the appropriate process through educational law as we work through this time.
The other concern I hear is about the 2007 felony DWI. Why wasn't he let go? That question, I'm sure you've received that as well.
Certainly. So I can't specifically answer it because it's prior to my time in the district, but having a felony DWI doesn't preclude you from being an educator in New York State. So that's a tough one. I don't have the context for when that decision was made, so that I know that's frustrating for our community to have that information.
Where do we go from here as a community, as Hilton?
I think that time certainly is important in the healing process, not only for the victims but for the greater community. As we move forward, we're continuing to provide some support to our staff and our community through Bavona. They've been an absolutely blessing to our community, a great resource. So we are providing some individual counseling through Bavona, some family counseling. We're also working on some long-term healing that will happen in partnership with Bavona. We're looking at restructuring the office space in the district. We don't want students to be re-traumatized if they come down to the office. So over the summer, we will be moving the footprint of the office. It will not look the same. And being patient and supportive of our community, but also knowing that every day that we can take a step forward will be better for our students and for our community.
Do you think it's beneficial that you are getting students back into the classroom more often at this time so there can be more face-to-face interaction?
Absolutely. I mean, besides this horrible situation we're working through, I had an opportunity to greet students and be at Northwood yesterday and at our other elementary schools, and it's just been re-energizing to our staff and our students in being back together. And when you're working through a difficult time, the best thing to do is to be together. So it really was a positive in the sense of being able to see friends and staff, and it was a very emotional day, not only for this incident, but because it's been 13 months since we've had all our students back in one classroom. So it's just really been it's something, somewhat of a distraction, I would think, and also just an opportunity to be around people who care about you. It's just been very beneficial, throughout this crisis.
Absolutely. The only thing I wanted to add, I understand if you can't answer this because of the investigation. The thing that people keep reaching out to me on social media and asking is, how did they not know?
Well, I lean hard on Bavona Child Care Advocacy. Deb Rosen, the executive director, and I have spent a lot of time together. We've provided a community forum, and what we continue to learn from law enforcement and also the experts at Bavona are these people are very, very manipulative. When you think about it and you think you know what's happening, people will ask that question. Well, how didn't anybody know? And the reality is, someone who behaves this way is very strategic and very masterful in the manipulation that occurs. So yes, when I first heard too, one of my first reactions was, how is this happening? How can this happen? And the reality from looking at the research and speaking to the experts in the community is often these are folks that we trust, that we care about, that we even love. And they position themselves in a very strategic and manipulative way to take advantage of people. So I understand the community will come to the conclusion, how could this happen? But I would also say that if indeed, as the reports come in, this has been something that has happened over decades, it's happened in other situations with this individual, so that's what makes it so challenging. But we certainly are heartbroken by the situation. There are a lot of people who didn't know and are asking themselves, like, when I saw this or when I saw that, was that a time? So I think that until the context comes out through the investigation and we learn more about what happened, and as we conduct our own internal investigation, we'll be able to identify maybe how this did happen and take steps to make sure that we eliminate any of those. But from the research, it's my understanding that this can happen because of the manipulation of these individuals who conduct these types of crimes.
Absolutely, and it can relieve some folks who are close to the situation of guilt, perhaps, when they realize that this is.
Yes, and I think that's where Bavona is going to play a huge role in the healing of our community, is being those experts and helping individuals understand that it's not their fault. Let's remember that there's one individual who allegedly took some really bad actions. And at this point in time, I know that people want to find out why and place blame. But at the end of the day, the blame comes down to that person who made those decisions.